my ex better than she would. So sometimes me coming into the picture, sometimes it can make things, spiral out of control. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not actually absolutely necessary for me to chime in unless it gets to the point that it's getting disrespectful and he's overstepping his boundaries as the ex. You want to chime?
Is your
She
wife?
hold up.
Is your wife?
She wants to chime
Um,
in. Hold up.
Olivia.
Yeah. Oops.
Okay.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
sorry, y'all.
You
But
see how she put that hand up? You see how she put that hand up?
in this household, and this is just in our household, we've come to a conclusion that it's easier for us and less of a headache for us when dealing with the other parent to let the primary parent deal with it first. And if it's something that we can't handle, then the other parent steps in. But there are times where my ex has been like, bored, and he's really upset. He wants to get in there, but we have to have a conversation outside of it where I tell him it's not a good idea because this could get out of hand very fast for no reason.
Let me chime in really quick. So Olivia, on that note, all right, knowing, because your husband obviously loves you, and
Obviously.
a man's primary job is to protect.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing this as a woman and referring back to that video, because I always maintain this. The main quarrel between men is they're territorial over the woman. And I feel there are a lot of women who play into that role, which is why the friction is there. As a wife and a mother, when does the line, how do you determine when it's time to bring your husband in, knowing that his job is to protect you, and it could it just may spiral out of control. That just may be what it is. Mm-hmm. When do you make that determination as his wife? And have you ever to a certain degree, and not to try and, have you ever kept anything from him for his own good?
Kept anything from him?
You are asking that in front of everybody? Like, that's...
I mean, we want the answers. We need the answers.
Now she gotta lie.
We need the answers.
We need the answers.
She gotta lie now.
If I don't tell him something, he'll know. I'm a horrible liar, for one.
Yeah, she can't lie.
I tell him if I don't tell him in the moment, I come back later and tell him, and he's like automatically like, go. I need to call this person. And sometimes he will call him. But I'm like, listen, we don't handle it like that. You're allowing him to interfere in our situation. Let me handle it because I know how to handle this person. I've been with this person before. I know what his end game is. So let me handle that. I'm not the type of person that allows people to really get under my skin like that. So I know how to deal with this other person. He is a protector. So that's why I don't tell him in the moment sometimes, because I know it will be a go, 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 go. And as he said before, that's not good for the kids. Because at the end of the day, my ex-husband still has to have a relationship with my children. And he still has to have a relationship with my children. So that's going to create friction in our household with the kids and him. And we don't need that. My kids and Jermaine have a really great relationship. And we want to keep it that way. And we don't need them seeing us fighting with the other parents at all. Because there's things about his kids' mothers that they do I don't agree with. But even when I'm talking to his children, I'm like, listen, that's your mom. We're not going to go against her. We just have to work. There's some things we don't agree with. We're going to have to work it out. That's it. Like, everybody has to be adults. Even in that situation with the video, there's too many people that are not being adults, that aren't thinking clearly. Everybody's thinking in emotions instead of thinking, I understand this guy wants to see his kids. I get that. I understand that. But there's a way to go about it. If you have a court order, get back in the car, get on the phone with the police, and tell them what's going on. They'll come handle the situation. They might not handle it in the time that you want them to, but they'll handle it. Even the guy that comes out with a shotgun, if you telling people, or whatever he came out with, if you're telling somebody to get off your property because they're yelling back and forth with the ex, you bring your wife back in the house and you say, this is not the way we're going to handle this.
Yeah.
We're going to call the police.
Your
There's
ass in the
all sorts of
house.
ways that this could have went differently. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, those
People act
adults. Those adults failed those children.
completely.
Oh yeah,
Every adult out there.
Completely. And not enough people stop and think about their kids before they're having a reaction. Not one person in that situation thought about a kid, not even the person videoing. Because you could put down that phone and went over there and grabbed your husband and said, come on, we're not doing this. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just like she said, I mean, it really boils down to just being able to kind of bite your tongue, and like, you got to kind of pick your battles in these scenarios, because there's so many people that are involved, that could be, I mean, I just think about some of the situations. If I would have reacted a certain way, like I wanted, like I was feeling at that present time, I probably wouldn't even be having this conversation with you guys right now.
Yeah.
I know.
There was
So-
a time.
You know how hard it is to get on the waiting list to see your best friend when he in lockdown. That should be terrible, dog, for real. So you know what? I just want to say thank you, Trey. Thank you for not putting me in that position to have to put together a care package.
I mean, really,
There's been
because
really big situations like where we were taking the kids to school, and ex-husband was fresh out of coming back to the country, and he didn't like that Jermaine was coming to the school with us, even though Jermaine had been going to the first day of school every year while he was gone. So my kids are used to him being there. So now all of a sudden he's back and he doesn't want Jermaine there. And he literally gets out the car to approach Jermaine. And I have to step in between, because if not, guess what's about to happen? Both of them about to hurt.
Did he know about this while he was gone?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yes, he knew.
Yeah. But
He knew about it. He knew about it. Was he cool with it?
Here's the thing. I don't know. He didn't say he wasn't cool with it, but he left on his own. He took off out of the country on his own.
I mean, here's the thing.
That's touchy.
It is. It can be touchy. Now, here's the thing.
It's touchy, but you knew prior to going to the school too. So if you felt that way, speak up then before we get in the car to go. Don't wait till we get to the school and then be like, I feel some type of way now and I'm going to get big and bold. You know what I mean?
So Olivia, if I may chime in right there.
Go ahead.
If I may chime in right there, Olivia. All right. Speaking of a situation like that, how do you, because I feel as though out of you and Jermaine have very, very fragile roles in this situation. And the reason why I say you have fragile roles in this situation is because the father is always going to be the father. But in Jermaine's case, Jermaine is treading a line where it's like he has to protect you, but he also has to respect the place that the man holds with his children, because he understands that there are two separate dynamics going on in the house. There's the dynamic with his wife where his wife feels comfortable to know that my husband is going to protect me. But then there's also the dynamic with the children where it's like, I don't want y'all to think I am trying to make you choose between me and your father. So in your case, Olivia, with your dynamic, how do you ensure that, and I know this could be a hell of a response, but how do you ensure that that balance is never, that scale is never out of balance? Because I feel like you have a pivotal role in this, because the words of a mother mean a lot to her children. So how do you keep that balance, even though you feel a certain way about their father?
Ooh, okay. So, the balance is not always there, because none of us are perfect. It's gonna tip here and there. That's just what it is. Yep. You know what I mean? And yeah, sometimes my feelings about him come out in vocal terms when we're going back and forth. And there's no love lost between me and my ex. It's just we did not work well together. We weren't meant to be in a relationship together. So I'm perfectly fine with raising kids together, but I think there has to be a mutual respect, you know? And I try to let him know that my door is always open for him to see his kids, to do what he wants with his kids and stuff like that. I have no problems. But there's also a line where my household is concerned, because this is where the kids are, and he has to respect my household. He has to respect my husband. Just like when he has a girlfriend or he has a wife like that, I have to do the same. We have to have a mutual respect. So it goes both ways. And even with me, I see what you mean by he's a man, he's trying to protect the household. I feel the same way when I deal with his, his the mother of his children. Is there's times where they're going off, and I have to interject, because it's he can't go at them like that. Because if he goes at them like that, then he's looked at badly. He's called this black man that is angry and all this crap. But if I interject, it's a different scenario. So it goes both ways. But there's going to be, when you have a blended family, there's going to be tics. That's just what it is.
And you know what? I want to say this real quick. Like, even, I know you were saying, you were saying something about just, it's kind of a slippery slope even when we started talking about it. But here's the crazy thing. I actually was in her ex's in the same situation with my ex, meaning that she was remarried with, another guy, and you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy to say this, but at the end of the day, there were certain parts of me that understood where her ex was coming from. Because I had that same inner feeling about, and this had nothing to do with my ex. It just had to do with the man that was,
So you could actually empathize with him. You could actually empathize
in certain scenarios. It's funny because we had a few conversations, my wife's ex and I, about, hey, listen, man, all that you talking, guess what? I understand it, because guess what? I was in the same scenario with you, with my other son's mom. Same scenario. But
do you feel as though that strengthened your bond?
I'm not gonna say that. I just was.
We can't even have no suspense on the answers because of his wife's expressions. We can't even have no suspense on the answers at all.
Honestly, I'm just who I am, right? And kind of what you see is what you get. Like I told him straight up, I said, listen, I'm not here to take your place. I don't need to do that. I'm here as a support for my wife. I love your kids, and I have love for your kids. And if you're not around, I'm going to do what it takes because they're in my household, and I'm going to treat them just like they're mine. But at the end of the day, I never once, I told him, we had a few conversations about this. I said, listen, man, I'm not in there saying, oh, call me daddy, this, that, and the third. No, I'm not your father. They know me as Jermaine. That's it. They might say, hey, that's my stepfather or something like that. But I've always encouraged them to make sure that they reach out to their father or have some relationship with their dad. And at the end of the day, I'm like this. The door's open. You know what I'm saying? And just like you said, we've talked about this. Our household is pretty much open. So it's never a closed door. And sometimes it's crazy because when you have everybody on a good page, it's kind of the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying? Yes, with the parents are separated, but you're getting love from this family, you're getting love from that family when things are good. You know what I'm saying? And I think for us, we've gotten it to a point that it's not 100%, but we've made it work. And I mean, it's been crazy. Don't get it twisted. But at the end of the day, all of the kids know that their family, everybody knows, what's going on at this point. that, you know, Jalen has a different mom, Jay has a different mom, Bruce and Zayna, they have a different father. Everybody's aware of it, and everybody accepts it now. That's just what it is, you know? And we just made it work, man. And I think just the whole time, just trying to kind of swallowing your pride as a man sometimes and looking at the bigger picture. Because that's really, and like I said, I mean, just I've had those inner feelings like, man, you know, you upset because the mom is dragging you through the court system or whatever the situation may be. You get those feelings. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I've always had to step back and say, you know what? What's more important here? And this is just me. This is my personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? And like, I don't need to prove to nobody, like, oh, you know, I'm the man. Don't come up. I don't need to do all of that. It is what, you know, if it goes there, then it goes there. But at the end of the day, I just stand my ground and I'm firm and I'm fair. That's it. If you play fair with me, I'm gonna play fair with you. That's it. It's
Hey, you
really
know what?
just
Where my dad's
Speaking,
at, where my dad's at podcast at Jermaine is speaking facts.
yes.
yeah, he
Come
is.
on.
Yeah, he is. And I'm gonna be real with you, man, because I've learned a lot. And you know, just to divulge our relationship, like he's my best friend, that's my big sister. We, you know, I love them. And I've seen the difficulty of a blended family. And I've seen what it is they've gone through. But nothing has been more difficult for the blending of their family than trying to find enough seats for everybody to show up to a damn graduation. Do you understand how difficult it is to lock down 30 damn seats? All right, and niggas show up 2 at a time and everything like that. Do you understand how difficult that is? They had me one time at my niece's graduation just lay across 4 seats. Just lay down, dude. Just lay across 4 seats.
Everybody's
Put
coming.
the banner out, Doug. Put the banner.
Yeah, put the banner. Hold the banner up. Hold the banner up.
Yeah, you stupid, man. But you know what, y'all? Like, on a serious note, though, I mean that it's crazy because things like that happen, like the video. I mean, things like happening like that all the time, and a lot of it is based off of the adults how they feel. They're holding on to something or whatever the situation is, and I get it. If you've been in love with somebody, you were married to somebody for X amount of years, you're gonna have those feelings there. That's a normal thing. It's not something that just goes away overnight. But at the end of the day, like I said, you have to look at the kids and you got to think about this. You know, the I guess the stepfather, the one that shot the guy, the mom, they got to live with this. Now the kids, you don't know how the kids are looking at the scenario, but everything is ruined. You know what I'm saying? And how do you come back from that? You know what I'm saying? How do you fix a scenario like that? So just like she was saying, you know, that time that situation came up, my baby boy was in the car. And I'm like, man, if I would have reacted the way I was feeling, how would that have went?
He was going to. They were
And
both
it
going
was like
to.
it was right there, right? And so here's the crazy thing. Understanding that it's wild because you feel like, okay, this person has tested my manhood, right? And so there's a part of you that still wants to
insert dominance.
Jump out there and just say, hey, this is not that party. If this is what you think it is, it's not that, right? But it's crazy because it takes more of a man to
stand down.
It does. Because at the end of the day, you know how tough that is to do internally, to fight that feeling.
Yes.
When you want to jump out there and you want to put hands on something or a situation, to fight that, because just like you said, we're men. We don't know how to just. It's a hard thing, and like I said, I've struggled with this.
What you was like, Trey from Boys in the Hood? Remember he came in the house swinging?
Oh yeah. Hey, no bullshit. No, seriously, no bullshit. But that's really what it is, man. I mean, you know, and here's the crazy thing. Like at the end of the day, I look back and I look at my kids, right? And I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I didn't go in that other direction. Because, I mean, things pop off quick. And guess what? Here's the crazy thing. If they would have seen me react that way, right? If I would have jumped out there at that time, their view of me would have been totally different than it is today.
Wow.
Just by my reaction there. Not saying that it's like, oh, well, they're looking at me like, he a punk. He stepped. No. They saw me handle things like a man should handle certain situations. And like I said, it didn't take anything away from me as a man, but they see that, and those things as they, because they were young at the time, so those things are embedded in them. Now, can he say that? Probably not. So that's burned in their memory.
Right.
And my dad did this and was acting all, but damn, my stepfather just kind of, moved in a different way. Because at the end,
let me ask you a question real quick, Jermaine. Because you dropping jewels right now, and is Olivia in there? Is she in the scene?
Oh, she went somewhere else, but But go ahead.
This is my question, because there's actually a 2-part question that I wanted to hear from both of y'all before I relinquish it over to Boom.
Go ahead.
During this time period of being a stepfather and she being a stepmother, what have you learned about yourself, and what have you learned about your partner?
Wow. I've learned for myself that I have more control over my situation and my scenario on a day-to-day basis than I ever thought possible. When you're in a situation like this, when you got multiple families and multiple kids from different situations, or past endeavors, whatever it may be, now this is not for everybody. For me in general, I wanted to be the best that I could be, right? For my kids, for my family, whatever. So I was forced to really look at this and really think through every move strategically. I had to. Because if I would have went off of emotions and all of that and how I was feeling and being upset and being mad, this, that, and the third, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So sometimes when you're put in this type of scenario, because most people say it can't be done or it's going to be problems, this, that, and the third. And yes, there's situations that you have to deal with, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is. And for me, like I said, man, I look back and I'm just like, I don't regret anything as far as how I dealt with things and being able to just be level-headed and calm the best that I can be through these type of scenarios, man. It actually branched off into other areas of my day-to-day living. You see what I'm saying? Because when you got your household in order in a chaotic situation like this, like the society would look at it. If society looked at my household, they would just say that's not going to work. But it can work if you slow down, think out what you're doing, don't react, off of emotions and all of that, and just think it through. You can make it work. It's not going to be easy, but if you want it bad enough and you want it to work, and you're doing it for the interest of the kids as a whole, because remember, we got 5 of them, so there's a lot of kids involved.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to teach them jokers how to play instruments and sing, and come up with a singing group. Call it the Morris 5.
Yeah. But
let me ask you this. Let me ask the two of you this.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So all 5 of them live there, right?
No. We have 4 of them, but one lives in Maryland. My other son lives in Maryland.
All right. So there's one there's one child that lives with you that's the only child that has both parents living with them.
Correct.
So, have you ever witnessed tension between the children in regards to that?
Ooh.
You know what? Not necessarily. You want to go ahead.
They think Jacob is spoiled because he's the youngest in general.
Yeah, so they think
our youngest is Jacob, and he's the only one that we have together. But we teach our kids that you love each other no matter who's their mom, who's their dad.
None of that matters.
That we are all we have, and that our family is our family, and it's not about blood. And that leads me to answer your question, Doug. What I've learned about myself, being a stepmom, is that when I had my daughter, I didn't think that and which is my oldest, I didn't think I could love anybody like I love her. But I've learned that I love Jermaine's kids as if they were my own. I would lay down and die for them. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I get up every day and go hard for them the same way I go hard for my own kids. And I didn't know that I had that in me. I always felt like, I couldn't raise somebody else's kids. I tried raising my sister's kids and it was really tough. But me becoming a stepmom has grown me as a parent in so many different ways. It also made me realize
a new dimension of love was unlocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that she said, excuse me, right?
That's okay.
But it's true, man. It's like, it's crazy because at the end of the day, blood, they say, it's blood, if it ain't your blood, then, but at the end of the day, love is love. That's just what it is. Like, period, point blank. And like I said, I have my biological here. My other two are not biological, but I treat them the exact same way. And they know that. And so I think back to what you were saying, brother, I honestly, there hasn't really been any tension because remember, a lot of what the kids do are based off of what me and her do.
Right.
And what we're putting out there.
Yep.
And so if we're putting that type of negative energy out there, then of course they're going to pick up on it. But we show them, listen, I don't care if that's your half. It don't even matter. Half this, half whatever. Love is love. Like I said, at the end of the day, you guys are living. You guys are brother and sister, period. So because sometimes you see this on a day-to-day, man. It's not even, sometimes your blood be the ones that treat you the worst.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really about the relationship that you have, with whatever person, whether it's a friend or brother, sister, whatever the situation is. It's just a level of respect. And that's why we've always tried to instill in all of them is just a level of respect. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they're going to have differences and they're going to argue about, certain things. But outside of that, it's been pretty straightforward. There was a time, and I'll be honest with you, that when we first started doing all of this, I was more, I would pay more attention. It seemed like I would pay more attention to my biological kids, right? And that was just a natural thing. It's just a natural thing. And, we had to kind of have it out about that. Me and my wife had to have it out just, showing like, listen, we can't treat any of them differently. You know what I'm saying? So that for me was a learning curve. And I'm just being straight up transparent and honest. I didn't go into it like, I met my wife's kids from another marriage and then I just automatically fell into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the respect is earned both ways. So I had to earn their respect. I had to earn that. I had to earn their love. I mean, it's just what it is. But the consistency and just being the same way, or trying to be the best, the same way that you can be on a day-to-day basis. Kids see that. And if you're there and you're answering their questions and you're there for them when they get up and you're there for them when they fall down or when they're going through this and going through that, at the end of the day, biological, not biological, father, stepfather, whatever, love is love, like I said, and they see what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not taking anything away from their father not doing or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that because I thought you said.
No. I just had a thought.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You want to jump in?
So people in general learn from their history. You know what I mean? Like Jermaine didn't learn how to be a step parent because he was brought up in a house with both of his parents. So he never had that experience with a step parent. I was brought up in a single parent household and my dad remarried. So I had to deal with a step parent. And I had to deal with a step parent that wasn't very welcoming. So when I came into this situation, I already knew that I wanted to have everything be, because she would treat us different from her own kids and my half brothers. So it was a very unwelcoming, it felt horrible. So I already knew coming into this situation, having stepkids, that I wanted to have a discussion with Jermaine about making sure we treat the kids all exactly the same. If we're punishing, we're telling my daughter she has to get a job at 16, everybody got to get a job at 16. Mm-hmm. If we're telling one they have to do dishes starting at the age of 11, they all got to start doing dishes at the age of 11.
Is that the age? 11?
It's probably younger than that.
Yeah, that's not, man. Yeah, let's get it.
I was like, say, they nice as hell.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Ain't nice as hell.
Wait, so that's a great question. So how do you deal? You guys seem like y'all on the same page about discipline, but were y'all always on the same page?
No.
Nah, that's
she didn't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because that's a tough thing, because you have to, and see, that's why I said this whole process all of this stuff we're talking about, it just takes time and being open. You got to be open to, listening to what your partner's saying, and because guess what, she's connected to her kids in a way that I'm not, her biological kids. I'm connected to my son in a way that she may be not. I'm not saying that she's not connected to him, but
it's
different. So sometimes I think we feel like we know our kids better. And here's the crazy thing. Sometimes I'm looking like, well, my son can go out and do this because he's a guy. But if my daughter do it, it's a problem. And I know that's a slippery slope, too.
It is a slippery slope, but it only became an issue because both his oldest son didn't live with us before. And so he left discipline up to me with all the other kids, because all three of them were biologically mine. So when his son moved in, it became different, because now he's like, now my son lives here, I care about discipline now. So how you were disciplining the other kids, I don't want to do the same with my son. But I'm like, but you were okay with it, when we were disciplining. So now I got to explain to my daughter why you stayed out past curfew and now you're grounded and you got your phone taken, and his biological son did the same thing, and that's not the same repercussion that he got.
Mm-hmm. So that's a tough thing. But here's what it kind of boils down to. Even for me, I had to just, once again, it's one of them situations you got to step back and say, okay, you got to try to look at the bigger picture, because at the end of the day, it does have to be straight across the board, because that's where what you were talking about as far as like the conflict in between the kids. Mm-hmm. That's where those type of conflicts come up.
Right.
When one of them feels that they're treated unfairly, you know what I'm saying? and this person gets to do this and this person doesn't get to do that. So you got to kind of balance that the best way that you can. And I wasn't open to it at first because I'm thinking, okay, well, I know my kid, so this is how this should be done. Or I don't feel that that's that big of a deal. But if my son wasn't living in the same household, then that's a different story. But because he's under the same roof and I chose to marry this woman, right? And I took in her kids and all of that, you got to try to come up with some type of compromise and figure out what's going to work across the board.
It sounded like you was the soft one.
Oh, who, me?
Yeah, she was the disciplinarian.
No.
Okay.
No, we're not even. I'm not gonna let you do that to my man. I'm not gonna let you do that to my man. All right, my man grew up hard. He came from the hardest two-parent
I'm just
household
talking about
in the black
discipline.
community. You understand me? He comes from the roughest part of the suburbs. Y'all ain't gonna do that to my man. He real.
He only is soft and disciplined when it comes to the oldest son. And he has his reasons for that. It goes
crazy.
back to some of the stuff that his son has experienced with
that he's had to deal with
his other parent and stuff. So he felt bad, and I get that. But
is he on his way out? Like, is he that much older?
Well, my daughter's 21. She's already left. Our son is about to be 20.
Yeah, he's 19.
His oldest son is 20.
Okay.
So he's still living with us through college right now, but even still, there's still rules when you live under the house. That's just what it is. And the kids started playing us against each other.
Yeah, they're
so
smart.
We started having to realize we have to have private conversations first behind closed doors, and then show a united front in front of the kids, because there's 5 of them. They'll take us down quick.
Hey,
and
man,
play you against each other.
Yeah. You know what, man? Let me, because we could talk all night. Y'all know I talk all night. We gotta wrap it. But before we let the Morrises out here, I want to say this. I know as an interviewer, you gotta kind of stay neutral, or you have to ask from a objective standpoint. I would like to say to our audience, I know this man and I know this woman personally. Like, blood could not make us any tighter. And if there's one thing that anybody is having a blended family needs to learn that I took from this, is that you have control over your life. Love is a dimension that's always being unlocked. And understand this. Whenever you have a king or a queen, they're always anointed because they're the head. And if that head is in right, that anointing falls down to the rest of their children and their family. And I can personally attest, knowing them separately and together, that anointing has fallen on each one of their children individually and collectively, and their house is blessed. So before we let them out of here, I just want to say thank you, Jermaine and Olivia, for gracing us with your presence and being example to pretty much anybody out there who's desiring to be a blended family. Me, I'm going to continue to be a renter dad because the pay is good. So, we want to thank y'all for joining us on the show. Thank you so much, man. And we'll be in touch with y'all. Y'all are friends of the show. So whenever we have topics like this, please, if you please join us and continue to drop them.
Yeah, we appreciate the invite.
Yeah,
I learned a lot.
Yeah, hopefully y'all got something from this. But like I said, at the end of the day, man, it's just you stay positive and make it work, man. That's
don't
it.
Forget
Make
you're
it
coming
work.
to watch the kids on Saturday. Thanks.
Did you get that?
You weren't
I got that. Yeah, I know. Gonna put me in front of the audience. Yes, I will watch the children. And yeah, all right. Let's get them the hell out of here. Let's get them the hell out of here.
Have a good day. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, man, they was cool, man. So, man, Doug bringing in the guests, man. I learned a lot. I'm in that situation.
I'm gonna tell you straight up, man. Like I said, I've known them for forever, literally. And even because I ask questions And I asked my questions from the standpoint of just being able to learn. And there were things that they divulged in there that I didn't even know. So it's like to learn that, you know, because nowadays I think it's very rare that you're going to find a woman without a child. No disrespect, but I think it's very rare nowadays. And to be able to know how to handle that dynamic and handle it properly and handle it positively